Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a little gift here to open from none other than my good friend Jazza. After reading the lovely letter included, I got into the contents of this box. This is Jazza's Pro Artist Series Illustrator Collection art supply box. I have been loving the art supply boxes that he has been making recently, and this one is definitely no exception. First up we have these Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers in this little storage case, which is very cute. Underneath that we have these lovely coloring in pages, and first thing I'm noticing is they are printed on some very nice cardstock, which I think should go pretty well with these markers and pencils. And there is so many different designs here. Some of them are actually artworks that I don't actually recognize, so I'm guessing they are made exclusively for this box, which is super cool. After that we also have some blank paper, which I'm guessing should be the same kind of paper. And then now I'm getting into the fine liners, and we have quite a nice little set here with a brush and a few different sizes and some graphite pencils, and of course the colored pencils. Very nice, very high quality, I can see. And let's make some art with this. First up, let's do some swatching. I want to test out all of these colors, and I'm actually going to do it in my sketchbook here because I don't want to waste the really good paper. And I love doing swatches in my sketchbooks because then I get to keep the swatch and look back in it like in time for reference for colors and stuff like that. And yeah, the fine liners feel very nice, very high quality, quite similar to a Copic multi-liner. The HB and 2B pencils are pretty good, but I don't know too much about graphite pencils and the difference between like high quality or low quality. I kind of use heaps of different ones. Anyways, here is the color blend by Spectrum Noir pencils. The colors look pretty great, and of course the Illustrator alcohol based markers as well. So I was trying to think about what kind of art I could make for this video, and I kept coming back to these coloring pages because they are very awesome, and I kind of wanted to include them in a way but still do it in a way that I make it my own, if that makes sense. So I went through them and I picked a few that had a similar theme, and I decided that I kind of wanted to make a composite, almost like a movie poster of a fantasy scene. So the first one I decided to include was this beautiful lady here. I can't remember if she's a princess or a queen or something like that. Obviously you can tell she's royalty. She has a crown, she has a beautiful dress, she has a pretty bird on her hand. I just felt like it had quite of a fantasy feel to it, so I wanted to include this as possibly the main character of whatever scene that I was going to create. I decided to keep her color palette very warm, and I started by including a lot of pinks in the outfit as well as orange. And I know that's, you know, it's a little bit of an uncommon color to have a dress, but I really wanted to emphasize warmth in this because I wanted her to seem like a really warm, happy kind of person. I think I did that pretty well, and I really like the progression of like the pinks to oranges to yellows. It looks pretty good. The next element of the picture that I am creating is just the corner of this one here with the little tiny fairy boy, and he's standing on some grass and holding out a flower. I just felt like this was really cute, and it's a really nice detail that you can include in the corner of an image. And I feel like maybe this little fairy dude is holding out a flower to the queen lady, even though in this artwork it's holding out a flower to the big fairy lady, which is also beautiful. But yeah, that's why I decided to pick him, and I used the same colors as well with the addition of green, just because obviously green made sense, but I wanted to keep mostly to the pinks, yellows, oranges as well, and I think it looks really good. And hopefully if I pick the same colors they will all work good together. So the next part of this is the dragon. Of course I had to include the dragon, and I believe this is actually Smog but for my purposes this I guess isn't Smog for what I'm using him for. Anyways, I decided obviously the same colors to stick with the theme, and I emphasized mostly on red here, but as you can see it does have some yellowy orangey highlights in there, and I wanted to deepen the shadows a little bit with the cardinal color, which is a sort of darker, less saturated red color that worked really well. And I feel like even though he has the same warm colors, I emphasized a lot on the red, so he still does have quite a menacing feel to him. Just for simplicity's sake, I decided to use just the head and neck and not the claw. For this next part, I chose the deer here, and mainly because there was quite a bit of a naturey theme, especially since she's holding out a bird, and there's also a little fairy holding out a flower to her. So I decided to include this deer, and I decided to color him in orange as well because it did fit the theme, and it also gives it more of a fantasy vibe versus just me coloring in a natural color. And I think he turned out really cute. Okay, so now that we've got the different characters for this image, colored in, I've decided to cut them out so that then I can put them together in their own scene. And I'm just using a craft knife or an X-Acto knife to cut it out carefully using my cutting mat so I don't damage my desk like I've done before. I find this part kind of tedious but also kind of satisfying when you cut it all out and you can stick it all together, and I'm kind of nervous to see how they all look together because obviously I had a rough idea, but I don't know exactly how it's going to look when I actually do it. And I'm really hoping this works out too, because if not, then I've kind of wrecked these coloring pages. But to be fair, I like to take risks and see what I can make. See what I can do to make this my own. So the paper for the final piece I'm using is just a piece of A3 paper that I am supplying myself, and I'm just carefully putting these in the positions that I imagine them to be, and just moving them around a little bit to see if it makes sense like it does in my head. Now that we've got a rough idea of placements, I'm going to go in and create the background myself, which I have decided is going to be, of course, fantasy theme, to make sense. And I've also made note of areas where I should add more detail so that the piece is more balanced. So I've decided to draw a castle which is situated on some cliffs along with a bit of a waterfall, just because I love waterfalls, a little bit of a river down below, and as you can see in the distance in the middle we have the ocean. Castles are one of my guilty pleasures to draw because they are really quite fun, and if you get creative with it they aren't too hard as well. You just need rough shapes that look like towers and walls, and then after that you just add in the details and it looks pretty cool. I don't know if it's accurate to a real castle or anything like that. This is fantasy, not real life, so and I do love adding in some arches and bridges in between the cliffs as well, just because I feel like it adds a lot of interest to the piece. And as you can see, I'm just adding a lot of layers to these cliffs here because I want to make them really nice and textured, and I feel like these pencils are really great for textured work, especially if you have more of a rough paper, which is the paper that I'm using today. I mixed and layered a lot of colors into those cliffs, as you can see, so I can try and get more of a realistic tone to them. And for the castle, I am working in quite a lot of layers, as you can see. I have added in some yellows and browns, then over the top I added some grays to make that just a little bit more subtle, and then after this I went in with the Spectrum Noir markers and I added quite a lot of texture over the top to add a bit of a cobblestoney feel. I also used some purples for the shadows and yellows for the highlights, and then I used some pencil shavings, as you can see here, to make a soft sky background. This is a pretty nice and simple castle illustration, and I don't want to make it too crazy because we are covering up quite a bit of it with the characters. Now for this sort of thing, I would normally use some foam mounting squares to add in the layered effects, but I don't have any of those, so I decided to use paper springs, which work pretty well, and I just used a normal glue stick to stick them to the characters and then stick that to the background. Now I made sure to add these in layers starting from the background to the foreground because it would just be easier to layer them that way. So first we have the dragon up in the sky, as you can see, and also the deer in the bottom corner. After this I added the queen slash princess lady. I'm just gonna say she's a queen, and then after this I added in the little fairy guy in the bottom corner and one of the birds from another coloring page, just because I wanted to include another bird. And here is the final result. Honestly, I love this. I think I did a good job in making it sort of my own, but there are quite a lot of elements in there that Jazza worked pretty well as well, you know, the line art and the characters. So I feel like in a way this artwork is kind of like a collab between me and Jazza, because both of our art mixed together to make this little beauty here. So anyways, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below if you like this artwork and what's your favorite part about it. And if you've also got the box from Jazza as well. And if so, what have you created from it? Hope you're having a lovely day. Please stay safe out there, and I shall see you, hopefully, in my next video. Bye everyone.